Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. First Impressions Day, first impressions of a pen that my wife gifted me as part of my Inky Countdown. We're going to take a look at this. This is a Lanbitou Forest pen. Quite nice colour. I'm not sure whether it's a green or a brown. It seems to be different depending what the light is like. It looks quite nice. So join me now down on the table. We will take a closer look at the pen. We'll do some size comparisons, put some ink in it, do a writing sample, then I'll give you my first impressions, my thoughts on this pen. Welcome down to the table. So here we've got it, today's pen. This is the Lanbitou Forest. Quite an interesting looking pen. Hopefully I can catch the light here. So we've got these coming down there. Quite nice looking. Let's take a walk through the body. So starting at the top of the cap, we've got a slight dome there. Feels like that's a plastic finish to it. We're coming down into the cap. The cap, it's the same width all the way down. The clip, very, very tight, hardly movable. I can hardly move that. So it's plain all the way down. The bottom here, we've got a little ring, which looks like it's cut into the metal. And then from there, we've gone down until we join the body. There is no drop off to the body. You can feel the seam, you can feel the join, but there's no drop off. Got a plain ring going all the way around it. And then we come into the actual body part, which is got this nice, I want to call it like a pinstripe pattern. Slowly turn that around so hopefully you can capture that. The body seems to be the same width until about 2/3 of the way down. Then we start to taper in. We end that pinstripe and then we've got just a plain disc going round, and at the bottom that's nice and plain. Very simple looking pen. The cap, it just pulls off. That reveals the built-in cartridge converter. There we go. And here we've got the nib. There's some nice simple scroll work there on the nib. The nib itself, it's got that flame effect. It's got that multicolour effect. I really like the look of it. If I turn it around, you can see here, reason why this pen was bought. It's got a Fude nib on it. So a different style of nib than I normally get from my Chinese pens. The section feels a bit thin. What we've got here on one side, then coming round, we've got this engraving, so that's on 3 places. So it does stop it from being overly slippy, because where my fingers are, you can see my finger goes straight onto that one, my thumb goes onto this one, and underneath I can feel my finger on the bottom one. So that's a nice little touch to try and stop it from being slippy. Let's swap on over and do some size comparisons. I brought in my 2 standard size comparisons. We've got the Pilot Metropolitan and we've got the Lamy Safari. All 3 pens in terms of length look very, very similar. In terms of width, the Lanbitou definitely narrower than both the other pens. Let's take the caps off. With the caps off, the Lanbitou ever so slightly shorter than the Metropolitan. So it's definitely a short looking pen. I do like the nibs though. When we look at all the nibs, I like the way that we've got that multi-tone on that nib. It really draws the eye. In the hand, it's actually not too bad unposted. It does feel a bit light, but lengthwise feels quite comfortable. It will post. To me, it starts to feel back heavy now. Doesn't feel overly long, but starts to feel that a little bit back heavy. But I am used to using my pens unposted. Let's get this out of the way and we'll pop some ink into the pen. Here's my very stained ink pot. Today's ink of choice by Diamine, and it's Nutmeg, and this is a shimmer ink. You can see there the shimmer. Let me just agitate this, then we'll fill the pen. So that's well and truly agitated. Let's take the lid off. Do this as quick as we can without making too much of a mess. I've moved the plunger down. Let's pop this in. Try and get on an angle so you can hopefully see it, and then we'll fetch the ink up. And on the first draw, really nice, about 3/4 full. I'm not going to mess about. that'll do for me. I'll just clean off the pen, get this out of the way, and fetch in the notepad of testing. Just dropping in to interrupt your regular programming. Would you like to help support the channel? If so, please consider joining as a member. As a member, you'll get early access to my videos. I normally upload them a couple of days before they go out, and as soon as they're uploaded, they'll be released to members. There'll also be a shout out at the end of the videos, and then as we get the members coming in, we'll actually chat among ourselves and work out what other perks, what other things you'd like me to add in. You know, would you like maybe a monthly live chat just for members? All down to us. So please, if you can, consider joining the channel. A link will be in the description down below. Here we've got the notepad of testing. This is a Rhodia pad. It's an A5 pad and it's plain paper. Just going to turn it to the side. I've found this makes it a lot easier for me to write. So here's today's pen. Let's do some writing. So we've got here a Lanbitou, making sure I write it correctly. Forest with what they called a bent or a food nib. Price for this pen, it's another expensive pen. $9 Aussie. The ink, Diamine Nutmeg. I actually think this was a good choice. I was a bit unsure what ink to put in here because depending on the light, this looks either green or brown to me. So that's why I thought, well, nutmeg might be quite nice. And I think it is. Drying times. So let's go immediate. 10 seconds. Nearly dry there. 30 seconds. 30 seconds, that's dry as we would expect. One thing to note, it is summer here in Western Australia. The temperature at the moment is 26. This is fairly early in the morning. And I do have a desk fan running. Both of those will impact the drying times. Line variation, so I'm going to hold it how I would normally use it. So here's going down, here's going across, add a bit of pressure. Not seeing much of a difference with some pressure. But this is where we're starting to see this nib come into its own. So going down, we've got a fairly light line going across. Wow, look at that. A bit like a thin brush there. Now, if I change the angle of the pen, there's going down and there's going across. So we are getting a different line width. And if I can really go down like this, I don't know, struggling. That's going down and that's going across. So the beauty with this nib and the way it works, let me try and get this to focus. I'm struggling to get it to focus. Let's try that. There we go. Beauty with this nib, as you can see there, the way it's bent means depending on the angle you get more or less contact, which means more or less ink transferred. Going to move the mic down to the page and write a sentence. That's quite nice. Let me just get that in focus as well. There we go. I've changed the app that I use for recording and the autofocus isn't as good as it used to be, so I've got to keep touching the screen to make sure it's focusing on the right spots. It's still nice. It's an enjoyable pen to write with. As I say, it's got that nice line, not a lot of feedback. It does feel stiff. Final test. There we go, here's the scribble. That's going backwards. Quite enjoyable. Let's, up here, just give this, and let's go like that as well. I just did that because I'm wondering, will some of that shimmer come through in that, if it hasn't in the writing? So what are my thoughts on this pen? So one thing I've just noticed as I was putting the pen down, let me try and get this to focus in. There's actually some writing. There we go. So on the side of the cap, we've got Lanbitou J2053. Then underneath that, I'm guessing that's Chinese characters. Only just noticed that. I say this is a first impression, so a lot of what I'm seeing is new. And it was literally as I put it down that I saw it. I quite like this pen. It's nice. It's not big. It's not wide. But it's interesting. The body, it's not in your face. It's something you could quite easily take to a business meeting. The line it puts down is quite interesting. So you do have that little bit of variation. You can start to add character in your writing without having to worry about anything. Price-wise at $9, I think this is really good value. It's an enjoyable pen to use. I know I've only used it for a little bit, but I'm really looking forward to getting to know this pen better, to using it more as the weeks go on. So this is my first impressions of the Lanbitou Forest with a Fude nib and Diamine Nutmeg. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I do love the nib on this. I love that multi-tone that we've got there. I think that looks really, really nice. I do like seeing that. The only one I've got it on is a TWSBI VAC 700R, the iris version. Very pretty. What are your thoughts on nibs like that? What are your thoughts on this pen? Please drop your comments down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit that thumbs up button every time you like, every time you comment. Just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.